This is a new type of stream. Thanks for joining us if you're tuning in. And we're going to be doing a combo game and educational stream. I am very bad at video games, and I am not particularly good at studying for exams. So why not combine two things I'm terrible at with this stream? I am lucky to have my good friend Sarah Mack here, who's gonna be teaching me about something that I don't know while I attempt to play Hades, a game I really love but am very bad at. So Sarah, what are we going to be talking about today?
Okay, so today, thank you for having me on, Miranda. Today we're going to learn about a slight intro in the history to comics, and then we're going to get into Watchmen, which is a comic book that I read for my comic studies class.
Okay, sounds really good. I'm going to bring up the gameplay, and we'll get started. If I can get it to work for me. There we go. Do we see it? I've lost my mouse because I'm playing the game. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up your video really quick. Okay, I'm ready to go. Okay, so where are we gonna start?
Sweet. Okay, so all of this information is from the University of Oregon Intro to Comic Studies class.
Okay.
So, the history of comics. So, the first comic that all comic scholars agree on to be the first comic, because there's, of course, debate and discourse within the comics community.
Mm-hmm.
The first comic was called The Yellow Kid and His New Phonograph.
Oh, yes. Okay,
And
I'm actually familiar with this. Yes.
yes.
Okay.
That's the one I sent you a picture of. Yes.
Yes.
And so that happened in 1896. And so comics started out with just one or two black and white pictures and just only on Sundays. But soon it grew to be full color, full page supplements in the paper. And then with growing literacy rates and more circulation of comics that could reach a broader audience, especially the immigrant communities, there was a boom in comics. So it became like a daily thing for comics to happen. And so then comics then have like storylines and like reoccurring characters and plot lines, so that every day and every week you could get a new story, but it was like all connected.
Okay, so they were already kind of serialized at that point?
Yes.
That's cool. I feel like I read about the Yellow Kid for a journalism class. Because I swear I had heard of it when you sent me the picture of it a while ago. So I'm actually surprised that I sort of have some amount of, like, background with this.
Yes, and reading those is really hard in, like, the modern lens. Because you're definitely like, oh, yikes.
Yeah.
This is
sure.
racist. This is very hard to read. So by 1943, the U.S. comic book market, so comic books are different than the strips that I just told you about. But so the comic book industry totaled 18 million monthly copies, and constituting a third of total magazine sales at a value of $72 million.
I'm going to be honest with you, the amount of numbers you're throwing my way really makes me afraid. So I don't know what questions you're going to ask me later.
Specific, but yeah, I definitely wanted to throw some, like, here's some dates and some things.
Oh no. Okay, I'm definitely going to fail anything that's an actual date.
You'll be fine, trust me. So in the first decade of U.S. comics, was the 1940s superhero.
Okay.
And, like, that was the most popular genre. And remember, at this time, the idea of a superhero was brand new.
And this is, like, wartime?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So Superman was the first hero, and he first appeared in Action Comics in 1938.
Okay. So not quite the
And
40s yet.
19 no,
Okay.
but really close. And early Superman comics are like, you have to laugh or you'll be like angry at some level. Like it's so interesting what they valued and like what they saw as like superhuman. It's very interesting. And then Batman made his debut in Detective Comics
Okay.
in 1939. And even like then for Batman, it definitely was like he was just another cop, to be honest.
Okay.
But
Because
like,
isn't he supposed to be a
more.
detective? I guess like Detective Comics would imply.
Yeah, like at some level, but he wore like his suit. But even then, it wasn't something crazy like we see today.
Okay.
And then Captain America made his debut in 1941. And then Wonder Woman in 1942.
Okay, so I'm gonna just say it aloud. It's Superman, Batman, Captain America, then Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I'm trying to suss out your plan with these questions. How specific I'm gonna need to be. Also, I'm doing terrible in this game because I'm not looking at the screen.
I truly have no idea what this game is or how you play it. So I'm just watching you kill things and
okay, yeah.
So
we can take a brief sojourn from actually talking about educational stuff to talk about this game because I do love this game. But it is. Are you familiar with what a roguelite video game is?
No.
So the way it works is you start in one position and you're trying to. So you're the son of Hades, the god, and you're trying to escape the underworld to go to the mortal realm. And you're like getting help from all the other gods to escape, and it's pretty difficult. I mean, and that's coming from me. I'm very bad at video games again. I'm just gonna disclaimer that over and over, just in case. But if you die in game, you go back home to the beginning, and you just have to try to escape again. So,
ew.
Like, this is not my actual save. I started a new save so that I wouldn't, like, royally screw up what I've already been doing. But,
sure.
like, I died, like, 30 times before I escaped the first time. So, like, it can be a little intense. I'm gonna go into a scary room, I guess. But yeah, it's not a good game to not look at the screen while you're playing, and that's what I'm doing. Because you're on the other side of my screen, and I just want to make eye contact. I guess that's just drilled into my brain as I have to make eye contact while I'm talking to a person, even if I'm not looking into the camera. Oh no, a lot of bad is just happening. So we were talking, I'm like so near death. Oh, I died. Okay. But I have some reserve health. Okay. We were talking about wartime comics, like in the 40s.
Yes.
And I memorized that just in time to forget it again. Continue.
It's okay. You'll be okay. But like, yeah, so like they're super silly and like by our modern standards, and like the villains were dumb and like it was definitely like a product of its time, and so like that's why it's very interesting to learn about. But like if we were to go back or when we read them, completely different.
Okay. Like how so?
But like, how so? So like it was really funny because like for Superman, for example, like to pretend because he was still Clark Kent. And so, like, in order to keep his, like, persona as Clark Kent and keep Superman, like, hidden, was, like, he would just be, like, a total, like, dweeb as Clark Kent.
Okay.
It would be, like, a literal pushover because he's like, if I act strong, then they'll know I'm Superman, because, like, all this sort of stuff. Which was, like, a weird line of thinking for me. So, like, Lois Lane is still his love interest. So when he's Clark Kent in the office, like, she does not give him the time of day.
Okay.
She truly, like, you're lame. Because, like, in one of the comics, he, like, let her dance with another guy. like a guy came up to her and was like, hey, it's my turn to dance with her. And like, instead of like standing up being like, no, this is my girl, like to be Clark Kent, he was like, oh yeah, sure, okay.
So being
you
polite,
can do what you
I
want. And then, like, yeah, so she was like, totally, how dare you? I don't need no pushover. No. But then like when Superman comes and saves her, she's like, hello.
Okay.
This is the kind of man I want. And so he's like caught in this like, if only you knew.
Okay, yeah. Kind of
And
like a very like incel fanboy kind of thing.
1,000,000%.
Interesting.
1,000,000. Yeah, it's so, and like the violence to me was misplaced because like it would be like he wouldn't be violent and then all of a sudden Superman would just like punch somebody out of nowhere.
That's so strange.
It was beyond strange. It just totally, the genre has changed completely, and I will get into that.
Okay.
So, but again, for the time, the superhero was a novel idea,
sure.
And it was very sensational and colorful and violent. Again, comparatively. Okay. And also, there were other comic themes out there, like Crime Doesn't Pay, and like murder mystery type of things, and horror comics.
Okay.
Which are radical. Those are cool. Those are fun to read.
The horror comics.
But even so. The Crime Doesn't Pay. No, that one. Okay, a lot of it's also police propaganda.
I was gonna say it sounds like a PSA. It sounds like a dare, don't do drugs thing. Sort of.
100%.
Okay.
But Jack Kirby made, what was it called? It's gonna bother me. I apologize, but Jack Kirby, like his first comic things that he made was like a murder thing, and it's honestly so good, and it holds up really well.
And this is Jack Kirby. He was the co-founder of Marvel. Co-founder of Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun hearing my voice delay.
Yeah.
On your
so
video.
That was.
So fun hearing my voice delay.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. So definitely all of these played heavily, like in Crime Doesn't Pay, there was a superhero named War Eagle.
Yeah. War Eagle.
And he literally was a bald eagle. Well, like it was a guy dressed in a bald eagle costume.
Okay.
And I laughed out loud. Like it was supposed to be really serious, and like he was like defeating Nazis and like, you know, like doing the like he was Walmart Captain America.
Okay.
Before Captain America was a thing. Or as a tangent of Captain America. And it was just so, it was crazy because like now from like our modern lens, it was so like, this is so obviously America first.
Sure, yeah.
World War II propaganda. It was nuts. But like, again, for the time, they're just like, oh my God, War Eagle, yes. And he got the girl in the end because his story was crazy because at first he was like in a wheelchair.
Okay.
Because of like, I want to say polio. Like he had like some disease when he was a kid. And so like the girl he wanted, like when he was older, like another guy was going after her and she was like, yeah, I guess I'll go with this other guy. And like the other guy was like, yeah, maybe if you weren't in a wheelchair, you'd get the girl. Like some like super ableist stuff that was crazy.
Whoa.
And so he got like extreme buff and like kept working out and like eventually like with his costume, which he literally had like an eagle head and like the wings. Okay. He became War Eagle and fought Nazis.
I mean, is this like a famous comic maker that made this?
It was, I don't know exactly who made it, but it was in a very popular comic called Crime Doesn't Pay.
Oh, okay, yes. Interesting.
Yes. And very much police propaganda, all the things. So, all this to say, we are getting to Watchmen. So, Americans were being Americans and decided that comics were hurting the minds of the youth and attracting them to juvenile delinquency and communism.
Okay. Match.
Because gotta throw communism in there somehow. And so, Frederick Wortham's publication of The Seduction of the Innocent, he was a psychiatrist who worked on the Albert Fish case, so he was a very well-known, well-reputed psychiatrist, essentially blamed comics and other media for corrupting the youth.
Okay.
And turning them to bad things. And you should see some of these really old videos of them like doing that, like trying to portray what a juvenile delinquent was.
Sure. And
like them going against your friends. It was honestly very funny, very real at that time. So out of fear of being banned by the government, because there was like colleges would like do like comic book burnings and like people were really angry. Yeah.
Okay.
So out of fear of being banned by the government, the comics community created their own code of conduct and decided to self-regulate.
Okay.
And this was called the Comics Code Authority. So in this like constitution, quote unquote, like in these rules, so essentially comics had to have clear moral lines. So and they couldn't be violent. They couldn't, I mean, there could be some violence, but it couldn't be extraordinarily violent. And the good guys had to win.
Okay, yeah, take all the tension out for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. Very like linear storyline. And like the bad guys had to lose, and then they had to be like punished by the law.
Okay. So they couldn't just be killed. They had to like go to jail.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. There was no outward killing. And they had to go to jail. And so it's very pro-cop, very pro-institution. Sure. And so it created the serial produced nature of superhero comics. And so that's what we see through the Platinum Age and the Gold Age.
Okay.
And so, but what this, well, again, this is based on my professors and a lot of comic theorist idea, so that's what I'm saying. So like the big comics that changed and really pushed the boundaries of this comics code authority was Spider-Man the night Gwen Stacy died.
Oh, okay.
Which was published in 1973, and it pushed the comics from the Silver Age to the Bronze Age.
Okay, so we're moving backwards.
It does. When comics were started, and like it was like the Platinum Age, and then it was Diamond, like Gold, Silver, Bronze, and now we're in the Modern Age.
Okay.
Which I thought was odd, but
I mean, now that I know, I think it clarifies some stuff because I was really confused based on what you were telling me earlier.
Apologies. Yes, so it goes down in ranking, but now we're in the Modern Age, so I don't really know what they're going to put it after.
It's true.
Because comics as a study is actually, and like as like a theory, while comics have been a thing, obviously since 1896, it's a new as a study, it's a new study.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Spider-Man the night Gwen Stacy died. So it created pandemonium, and again, it created the new age. So it was important because, first off, the main character died, or Gwen Stacy dies, which is against the rules under the Code Authority in general.
Okay.
But the cause of her death was ambiguous as to who did it. Because if you remember the second Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, where Emma Stone dies, and like how he didn't catch her in time, I'm not sure if that's like a direct thing, but like it's that same level of like, it wasn't his fault obviously that she fell, but like she was in that position because he was there, all that sort of stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So it was kind of ambiguous as to like who was the true cause of her death. And And so it wasn't clear if Spider-Man or the villains were at fault, which again goes against the clear moral boundaries that the comics authority called for. So now on to Watchmen.
Okay.
So yeah, so like that was a really big turning point. Also, in the same year, 1973, Dark Knight Returns came, and so it redefined Batman.
Okay,
as
so
like
Dark Knight Returns is the name of a comic also.
Yes, apologies. Yes, and another comic. And that comic showed Batman as the more modern version. Like we think of him as like the brooding, gritty kind of guy, and so like it definitely like reshaped his character.
Okay.
To be more like, I have a tragic past, and this is how it's manifesting.
Okay. Yeah.
So both of those, big death.
I've died silently while you were talking about comics. It happened a while ago, so don't worry about it.
I know, I really...
No, I was like, you were talking and I didn't want to like interrupt your train of thought. Also, it was embarrassing, so I didn't feel like getting into it at that time.
I love the art of the gods.
It's so
They're all
cool.
different than... Oh, I love it.
I also have not been paying attention to what I choose. Like, you get 3 choices for, like, your power-up. I haven't been looking. So. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so, yes, Watchmen.
Watchmen. Okay, so I gave you this background to show you how, like, while Watchmen is a very good book, obviously, based on the comic history, it was even more revolutionary for its time.
Okay.
So already we're seeing like dissent in the comic community, especially in the superhero genre, with the 1973 Spider-Man. And so Watchmen came out and was written in 1986. So we have about a decade of like stewing in that time.
Okay.
So it was written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Dave Gibbons. And so it was revolutionary because the superheroes in the book were neither super nor heroes.
Okay.
So none of them, except one character, but I'll get into that later, had powers. They were truly regular people dressed in costumes who fought crime.
Okay.
Which was silly. And like they literally like made fun of themselves for it. Like they realized and took that in stride, the characters in the book. Like they wrote things that were like, yeah, it was dumb. Like if you think about it, it's dumb that we did this, but we like had this feeling that we had to be vigilantes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so this pushed comics from the Bronze Age into the modern age.
Okay.
So, and it pushed a lot of boundaries as well where comics could go. So there's nudity in this, there's explicit sex scenes. Explicit for the time, but still explicit sex scenes.
Sure.
It dealt a lot with psychology. There was a sexual assault that happened, and a pretty graphic one at that. And almost all characters were pretty morally gray. And there was, except at the end, there was a bad guy, but even then you were kind of like sympathetic to his views. Okay. So good. So I'm going to give you a character list. So you don't have to memorize them, but I just want you to know some names you will be hearing.
Okay. It's good to know that I don't need to memorize this.
No. So pay attention though, but you don't need to like crazy. Okay. So Laurie Jespeck, I don't know how to say her last name, but her hero name is Silk Spectre.
Okay.
Then there's Dr. Jonathan Osterman, and then his hero name is Dr. Manhattan.
Okay, I've heard of Dr. Manhattan.
Okay. Yeah, he's a pretty primary character in this. Edward Blake is the comedian.
Okay.
Dan Dryberg is Night Owl. Adrian Veidt is Ozymandias. And then Walter Kovacs is Rorschach.
Okay. I have heard of a few of these characters.
Yeah, Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan are probably the most noticeable outside of this book. Because Rorschach's the one with the mask that changes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like he's very, yeah, so he like is very noticeable. And then Dr. Manhattan's blue.
Yes.
Love Dr. Manhattan. So he is the only one with superpowers.
Okay.
So due to a nuclear reaction accident, he changed from Jonathan Osterman into Dr. Manhattan. Though press gave him the name Dr. Manhattan. He didn't like become like an alternate person. He still was Jonathan.
Okay.
But like the media made him Dr. Manhattan. A lot of this, I'm gonna compare it to The Boys, even though technically The Boys is derivative of this.
Sure. Well, you know that I'm familiar with that at least.
That's what I'm saying. So like a lot of this is like, oh, he was his own person, and then like the government / media came in and like gave him the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like intricacies with that already. So in his nuclear reaction accident, he became literally a god, and they compare him to a god in the book, which is a really interesting, another psychological societal thing that was revolutionary for this book. So he can shape and change atoms, like make stuff at will. He can teleport and do other super crazy stuff. So like basically like any power you think of, he has.
Okay.
Like he's Superman. Like he's the definition of overpowered. Like it's almost annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like one of those things where, like, to fix the plot, he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's one of my favorite characters. And so then another important character is Rorschach. Mm-hmm. So he's the only one with strict morals. Like the other people go back and forth as most humans do, but Rorschach, like, his ending quote, which I love, is like, "Make no compromises, even in the face of Armageddon."
Okay. That is good.
Anyway. Yeah. And so, like, he has very strict morals. While they're not necessarily what we would consider good morals, he's definitely crazy, but he never strays from it. He has his duty and his line of thought, and he never strays from it, which is a very important character development thing. And so and all of this leads to his doom and all that sort of stuff. So he's brutal and he's a killer, and because like his idea of like taking care of bad guys is killing them.
Okay, so very like not comics code.
100%. Yeah, and I think at this point the comics code just wasn't a thing anymore. Or all of these, because this was Alan Moore worked with DC to create this. This is a DC book.
I feel like I don't know why I heard this, but I feel like I heard about the comics code like seal being dropped off of like the last major comic group that was still putting it on. I don't remember what that was, but I feel like it happened sort of recently.
I'm sure.
So
yeah,
I'm going to. We're about to do a boss battle, so I've just been kind of hanging out in this room for a little bit. So I'm going to move us into sudden death, if I can, if it lets me. Yes, I'm going to move us into sudden death because I feel like I probably will die during this section. But I will just say that once I die in this section, if I die, let's be optimistic, if I die, we will move to the quiz. Does that sound good? So I know we have a lot more to go through, but...
So I will tailor these to your questions.
Sure, but I don't feel like you need to, because this is a test for me, because the longer I survive, the more information I have. So...
True, okay. Yeah.
You just keep doing what you need to do. Don't worry about me. I will just be suffering on my little side of the screen. Sounds good?
Fantastic. Yes.
Okay, let's get ready. All right. So we know Rorschach.
Okay.
That's where we ended off.
Rorschach. Okay, so like his character, like because he just like basically is like, let me just kill you.
Mm-hmm.
This leads to the book's society, which is slightly different than ours, to regulate heroes under the Keene Act, which is similar to like Civil War in Marvel.
Okay.
How they need government regulation, so all the heroes were kind of forced to like put their real names out there and their faces and stuff like that.
Okay.
So this book is set in the height of the Cold War. So, but there's different things. Like Nixon is on his third term as president.
Oh, interesting. Oh, this is already going so badly.
There are airships, and thanks to Manhattan, there are electric cars and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, no, it's actually really interesting. So nuclear fallout is imminent because Doc Manhattan is the biggest deterrent. Because of his crazy powers, he leads us to win the Vietnam War and made the U.S. an even bigger military might and battle.
Okay.
Because he's just like, let me blow up all these tanks and like basically destroyed Vietnam. And then we won. Yeah. And so he doesn't have any emotions, like any. And that's what's different. So that's where the craziness about the godlike powers meets with the political powers.
Mm-hmm.
And so he lost all emotions, but he can see time all at once. So he can see the past. He is simultaneously living in the past, present, and future.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's naked the entire time. And also, like, his solution to problem, like, he literally just goes off. He just goes to Mars and creates a castle like Elsa did in the mountains. So that's enough about the characters. So literary conventions these are some literary conventions that made Watchmen a pioneer. So in chapter 5, the chapter is perfectly symmetrical panel-wise.
Okay.
So starting from the ends, like the first page and the last page are same, like panel structure-wise. And then it like mirrors itself into the middle. It's kind of like a butterfly.
Oh, cool.
And so so that was super intentional, and like it, like with the story, it works. So it's a really amazing thing that they did. And then there's also stories within the story. So throughout the book, we see a boy reading a comic called Tales of the Black Freighter.
Okay.
In which a character is being chased by pirates and is slowly losing his humanity.
Okay.
So you read excerpts of the comic in concurrence with the Watchmen storyline. And this is an analogy to Adrian's character and how his determination to solve humanity led him to lose his own.
Okay.
And after each chapter, there's some sort of like extra element. So for the first few chapters, there are excerpts of the original Night Owl's autobiography. It's a tell-all for old superheroes of the 30s and 40s.
Okay.
And it's very similar to the old style. It's like a book, like you read it. It's not like comics, but like the old tropes of comic books of the 40s and 50s. Oh no, you died?
I died.
That's so sad.
We were just about to hear about the old tropes.
Old tropes.
Oh no, I'm really afraid now. Okay. Well, let me quickly pause this. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so hopefully we can keep talking about comic books after we do the quiz.
All good.
Okay. Let me exit out of here. Let me leave. Let me leave. Okay. We're gonna move to quiz. Terrifying. I don't like doing streams in general. I think gets me anxious. My roommate didn't make me. She gave me an energy bar today for the first time. I've never had one of these, but it has the same amount of caffeine as an espresso shot in it.
Yikes.
And it, like, I don't think my body is built to have that kind of caffeine in my system all at once. And I've just had jitters all day. But, like, having the quiz stuff up is giving me excitement. Okay. So, should I reveal the first question?
Yes.
Okay. I'm art. I don't trust you with these. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh, I could have been meaner. I'm just saying.
Okay. Okay, so what year did the first comic come out? Okay, I remember the first comic. We talked about that. It was the yellow kid.
hmm
Hmm. Okay. I want to say it's like late 1800s.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, so that's something. That's something. Okay. Late 1800s. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for 1890. I'm not gonna look at you. 1892.
Close.
Was I?
Very, actually.
Okay. What was it?
1896.
Oh wait, with N4. That's pretty good. Still
Yeah.
incorrect, but pretty good. Okay, I will take it. I will take that as a point in my heart, if not
Yes.
in the actual game. Okay, I'm gonna hide that. Come back. Okay. What Spider-Man comic shifted the perspective of okay, this was was it the night that Gwen Stacy died? Is that the full title? I know Gwen Stacy died is part of it. Yes?
Yep. The night when Gwen Stacy died. Perfect.
One. Okay. That's more than I expected to get in the whole thing, so. Okay, number 3. What chapter in Watchmen was perfect? Okay. I don't think you gave me a name.
It's
So
like
is
a
it a
number.
number? It's a chapter
Yeah.
number? Oh, no. 5 feels right to me. Really?
And you
Wait,
are
did I
correct.
really get that right? Crazy.
Yes.
So Watchmen number 5, chapter 5. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess the book I have is the anthology of it.
Okay.
So I guess it would be the 5th book that came out, but it's chapter 5 in this one.
Would you be able to show me that? Because it just sounds super cool.
Yeah. This book is huge. It's literally like 3 pages. Okay, so like this is the first page. So you see how it's a 3x3 panel?
Mm-hmm.
So then let's see where the end of this chapter is. So this is the last page, and it's a 3x3 panel.
Okay.
So like, I'm gonna get to a point where it's not a 3x3 panel. So like the title of the chapter, it's called Fearful Symmetry.
Okay.
And so like this is you have a splash at the beginning and then 2, and so then at one point it goes into that as well. I lost the track of the pages. I apologize. And so then at this one is a big one, and then 2x3.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, no, and so it's a really like big chapter, like plot development wise. It's and so I think this is the middle. So then it's a 3x3 together.
That's super cool. Like, just thinking about the amount of work that would have to go into building something like that is crazy.
That's exact, and it's not. Yes, right. And because I was like, oh, at first when like she described it, I thought it was like each page, like this page was symmetrical, but it's like
Yeah, kind of like
an
butterfly.
accordion style. Yeah.
Because that's like an insane amount of coordination, story-wise, art-wise. Because you said that it was 2 different people doing the illustration versus the writing of it, right? Like just like thinking about how much you would have to discuss that to get it right. That's really impressive.
Yeah. And Alan Moore was like notorious for like basically writing like screenplays for his comics. Like, so he would write copious amounts of notes about like very tiny details about what he wanted in his illustrations.
Interesting. Very cool. I mean,
and it's
like,
funny 'cause he hates superheroes.
yeah. Like, comics illustration is so, like, the style of it is so specific that must be a really interesting career just to be a comics illustrator.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna reveal our next question. Okay. I know I complained about number questions. For some reason, my gut was to say something Oz, but I think this is just because I was talking about Dr. Oz with my roommates last night. So I don't think it's Oz. Okay. I know the thing is I would feel better about this if I knew we didn't talk about it, but I know we talked about it. So, yeah, I'm stumped.
Okay, it's Jonathan Osterman.
Osterman. Okay. So sort of
So
an
you're kind of
Oz.
close with the Oz.
Is Dr. Oz's real name Oz? Or last name? Do we know? I feel like this is something I just talked
think.
about. This is a conversation I had and now I just really need to think about that. Did he name himself? No, he wouldn't. That's not enough of a connection.
Hopefully not.
That would be weird. Be weird.
Yeah, that's his real name.
He's revealing to us that he wishes he were blue and naked all the time.
Yes.
Oh, my laptop is really struggling with this. Okay. One more question. What was the name of the comic within the comic? Okay. This was like the last finished thought you were able to have before I really screwed up. I remember.
I'd give you half a point about what was the comic about.
What was the comic about? I think I remember the word freighter. Because I remember it sticking out to me as not a very comic-y word.
Right. Yes, freighter is in the title.
Freighter is in the title. Okay, I'm not just like pulling this out of thin air. I'm gonna say it was like a color and then freighter.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Black freighter.
Yes.
Wait, really?
There's a little bit more to it.
There's more to it. I don't know anything else. I remember freighter. I'm surprised I got black. What's the rest of the title?
It's Tales of the Black Freighter.
Oh, okay. Okay. So there's like that is a very interesting comic title.
And it's a brutal comic.
Really?
Within the comic.
Okay, and you said you were hoping that I remember, but I don't. I remember that you said there's a boy who's reading it the whole, like, throughout the book. Or throughout Watchmen.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you said the content was.
So the character in the Black Freighter, he's being chased by pirates.
Oh, yeah, there were
And
pirates,
so
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so scary. It's not scary, it's just, like, super unnerving. Because he is like marooned essentially on this island, and like everyone on his ship has died.
Okay.
And so he's like on it, kind of like lost in the sense where like you watch and you see all these dead bodies. So unless there are more people surviving, and so he's the sole survivor. And so you're seeing all these decayed bodies, and then he starts to bury them. And then so the Black Freighter is this ghost ship and like destroys towns wherever it goes.
Wow, okay.
And so he is like desperate to get to his hometown because like it was like on the way. He's desperate to get to his hometown before the Black Freighter so his family would survive. And so he does this like crazy, like he's crazy. Like he like loses his mind. And there wasn't a lot of trees. I don't really know why he didn't just build a raft out of trees. But he built a raft out of the dead bodies because they were floating because they were filled with gas.
Natch, yeah. Of course, that's what you would go for.
As one would. So he literally like buried them, then re-dumped them all out and like created this raft of like all the bodies tied together.
Whoa, okay.
And like a sail. And so then he's sailing and then like sharks attack him because like the dead bodies are blood and all that gross stuff. And so he freaking kills a shark and then uses the dead shark body to finish his ride to the town.
So he like hops from a bunch of corpses to just one shark corpse.
Well, he kind of like puts it on top. It's weird, but yeah, essentially.
Okay, and does he make it back in time?
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. The Black Freighter is it's not like out of his imagination, but like the whole thing is like the Black Freighter is like an allegory to death.
Okay, yeah.
And like hell and stuff like that. So like he makes it beforehand, but so he goes onto the beach of his town and he sees two people, like the governess and someone else. So like people he knows, but he was like, why are they on the beach?
Mm-hmm.
Like they must like, because he assumes the pirates already got there because he was like delayed horribly. And so he was like, why are they on the beach? They must be working with the pirates. You know, they must have like paid a ransom and they are working with pirates. So he freaking kills them.
Okay.
And takes them to town. And so then he sees like what we know as like a scarecrow of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
He think like, because it's just like it's really late at night, so he sees it as like a sentry, like a pirate sentry. And so he's like going into town. He keeps the corpse of the dead woman, so like and he like puts on the clothes of like the dead husband, so like to pretend it's him. No, like this guy's like lost his mind, and he goes into town and like goes to his family thinking that they're dead, and like so he like is crying, doesn't see them because it's like pitch black out, and he like kills his wife by accident because he thinks it's like a pirate and an intruder. And so like and then they find out that like he killed two of like the mayor and like the really two high-ranking people, and so he's like driven out again. Whoa. And so like he loses his, he becomes and then he like swims out to the Black Freighter's like in the shore, and he swims out to it and joins them. Because, like, again, it's like the allegory of hell, so he's like, I'm already here.
So, okay, so this is a very complicated, like you said, like a very intense allegory, and this is in the middle, this is a story being read by a child in Watchmen. It's not even, like, its own separate thing.
No, you get some, like, panels of what's happening in that, but honestly, what it mostly is... So, like, this, for example, is, like, all of this is the Black Freighter.
Oh, okay.
But I wish I could have, like, a doc cam. But there's different signs, like, different ways. So, okay, so you see the white.
Mm-hmm.
That's characters speaking over what's happening in the book. But the so like this is like a Watchmen character.
Mm-hmm.
But then every time it's like this color and like this style of like text bubble is the Black Freighter.
So there's like,
and so like
also like design elements that support like the intertextual aspect of it. That's super cool.
Yeah, so each character has their own speech bubble type, which is really handy.
That is really helpful.
Yeah, so like this yellow is Rorschach's journal. And so like these people are talking, but like that tan is what's happening in Black Freighter.
Oh, okay. So
but
like
these are different characters.
Okay, so like these are all happening all the time, sort of thing. I was kind of picturing there would be like a little separate interlude where it's like Tales of the Black Freighter, but it's actually like just kind of ongoing the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
No, this book, it's one. This book is definitely like you need to read it 3 times to like see it all type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much like visual symbolism. So 10 out of 10.
Have you heard of the video game Return of the Obra Dinn?
No.
It reminds me a lot of the way you're describing Tales of the Black Freighter. It's not quite as like grotesque, I'll say, but it's this video game. I love this video game. I've talked about it to my roommates for hours. I like was playing it over winter break, and I would like lie in bed awake thinking about it because it's so cool. But basically, the way it works is you are an insurance investigator, with the ability to travel through time,
Okay.
with a pocket watch that you like receive. And it's called the Memento Mori. The pocket watch is called the Memento Mori. And if you go to a corpse and press the button on the pocket watch, you're transported through time to the moment where they die. And so you can see like the moment of death. You don't like see a scene, you hear some of the audio of what happens before, but you only see the moment of death. And so it's this super cool aesthetic game, but also like the whole thing is you're trying to find the identity of every person on the ship and what happened to them. And it's like this ship that arrived after being missing for like a year or something like that, and everyone's gone, everyone's disappeared, and you're trying to like you do your insurance investigating to figure
I
out
was like, who's liable? Like,
how everybody died, or disappeared on the ship. And it's just so cool. Really recommend it. It's not like a gaming game, it's more of just a puzzle game. But reminded me of what you were talking about with kind of like a death ship.
yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
nuts.
That's a weird aesthetic
like-
that I really like.
Yeah, no, but okay, I'm gonna add a layer to this craziness, right?
Okay.
So there's the comic within the comic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get what I was telling you about, these like extra things we get at each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a missing persons article about the author of that comic within the comic.
So the author of Black Freighter.
The author of Black Freighter is missing.
Okay.
And without getting too much into spoilers, because there's a huge twist at the end.
Okay.
Jaw dropped to the floor, makes you think I was crazy. But basically, to create the twist, this person put all of like these creators on an island,
Okay.
and the Black Freighter author was a creator to make a backstory for the thing that happened.
Oh, okay, so kind of like being hired by the government to like script the moon landing or something like that.
100%, exactly.
Okay, cool. And it isn't that specific thing, right? I didn't accidentally spoil the Watchmen for myself.
No.
Cool. Good to know. Because now I definitely have to read Watchmen based on this
Yes.
conversation. Yeah.
And so it's like already like layers upon layers of it.
So is the disappearance of the author ever explicitly said in dialogue, or is it like something you have to just notice in like little things?
There is like scenes with the author on that island, but without that you'd be like, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it is something that rewards you for like paying attention throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, it's definitely, it rewards you for paying attention, and then is also resolved.
That's the best type of storytelling is when it's like
It
you're
is.
rewarding active like engagement with what you're making.
100%.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's
And
so
like
cool.
it ends on like a cliffhanger, but like a satisfying cliffhanger.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're like, okay, cool.
And like, and
really-
you're like, I don't need this to be resolved. Like, just the idea of it is enough, kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's
Mhm.
yeah. Have you?
Though with the Watchmen TV show, I haven't watched all of it, but they are in a sense resolving it.
That was
But-
I was just about to ask. I was like, have you seen any of the adaptations of it?
So I watched the movie
Mm-hmm.
by Zack Snyder, which is honestly, it's like a 3-hour movie, so like be prepared.
Okay.
But it's a pretty like scene for scene, like there's some like shots that are exact panels from the book,
Oh,
and
okay.
like dialogue that are exact panels. So it's a pretty good. They changed the twist, and they changed the ending.
Okay.
But it makes sense, and it's a satisfying way to achieve the same goal that happened.
I mean, I guess if you're like if your goal is to make a full adaptation, that could be annoying, but I understand if you're like trying to preserve the feeling of the twist, that it's like people coming into this with prior knowledge know what's going on if I just tell the same story.
Yeah.
So it's not like a
Right.
dissatisfying other option.
Yeah, and also like I think because like in the movie, like the Black Freighter's not a thing.
Okay.
Like there's an entire like subplot that doesn't happen, and I truly think that was for time. Because if it truly was like a true adaptation, it'd be like a 3.5 hour long movie.
Well, you said it's already 3 hours long.
Yeah, no, like it would be even longer. So it was and like the twist still like gave you the idea. Like it was still really good. It was still really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate there was some still. I mean, it's a comic movie and it's a comic book, so there was some stupid things, but like I was impressed with it. And then I haven't seen the Watchmen series, but that takes place. So like this Watchmen takes place in '86, so like when it was written, so in the late '80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then the series takes place in 2019, and so it's still in the same world, but it's like dealing with the ramifications of what happened.
Oh, interesting. So it's like post the big twist and the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Well, I like that they're not just trying to tell the exact same story, at least.
No, and it's actually very good. So like the reason they have all electric vehicles is because Dr. Manhattan, like as I said, like can create basically anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like he created like lithium, like more lithium, so that the electric cars can do that.
Mm-hmm.
To create batteries. But then like there was, and it's also this is like another rewarding thing for paying attention. And there was like one line, because I only watched the first episode and there's about 10 episodes. One line she was like, oh yeah, we had to change that because man-made lithium gave people cancer.
Oh.
Which was Dr. Manhattan's storyline, because he was accused of giving people cancer, so that's why he left, because he's basically like radioactive. And so that's why he left to Mars. And so, but he also made the lithium.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the fact that she said man-made lithium gave people cancer, like, ties into a lot of different aspects of his character.
Oh, okay. I mean, in the age of remakes, it's super cool to see old properties being used in new ways, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that on HBO?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of them are.
Both of them are. I was gonna say, I would feel bad watching the TV show first. But now I do feel like I really want to read the comic. So, thank you for, like, fully, like, immersing me into this. This is a very cool new interest that I'm developing.
Yes, I'm so telling you, you'll love it. Because, like, again, like, why, at least I know you like The Boys, but, like, why I was, like, super entranced by The Boys
Mm-hmm.
was, like, whoa, like, superheroes are dicks. And, like, it is,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like a media campaign. It's more than just saving people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this was, like, the OG, like, superheroes. And especially since they're just literally randoms. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just, like, you and me would be part of this team.
Just vigilante, like, random people.
Just vigilante random people. Like, they don't have powers except Dr. Manhattan. Like, that's it. And, like, I think that's, like, a super interesting take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, like, with what you're saying, I see the influences on The Boys. Not to bring everything back to that show, because I do really love that show, but, like, it's cool to see the roots. Cool to see where it all came from, you know? Okay,
Very much.
I'm gonna move us back to our two-shot. We've just been hanging out on the quiz with that last question for a super long time. But, oh, it's about time. Wow, we just spent, like, 15 solid minutes just talking about Watchmen, which is cool. So thank you again so much for agreeing to do this and helping me test out this idea.
Thank you.
Thank you to our viewers, all of which I'm pretty sure are us on this call right now, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then, so of course, big gold star for our teacher today. And how many did I get right? I got 3 right?
You got, yeah.
I got 3 right, so I get 3/5 of a star. We're working towards completion there. But I feel like after today, I'm going to learn a lot more by reading Watchmen. So I just have to do it now, whenever I have free time, which is never. But the next chance I do, that's going to be the next book I read. But
Heck yeah.
Thank you again so much for joining me, and I'm going to kick us to the end screen.